Hello, welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Podcast. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard. That's L-E-N-A-R-D. It looks French. It's not. It's Leonard without an O. Thank you for tuning in. As Graham Norton used to say on his show, let's get on with the show! Warning. This episode contains some audio and or video glitches. It is not your equipment. Joining me today is Frank Clement, and that is C-L-E-M-E-N-T, yes?
That's right.
And as my audience knows, I can't pass on the lame pun. So rather than me tell one, insert your own inclement weather joke here, right? but bum.
Well, I usually tell people it's like cement with an L, and then they get confused because it's a soft C instead of a hard. It doesn't work. But I like how you always have to tell people that your last name's not French, because I've actually met some people who asked if it was pronounced Clement, and I'm like, nope.
Or cement with an L. Oh, so cement. Cement.
Yeah. We're getting farther and farther away. This is bad.
But no, that makes sense. I never really thought that could be pronounced French. But yeah, you're right. My name, Leonard, looks French. Leonard without an O. So yeah, I never really thought about that. So I'm glad I made the joke. It led to that very human interaction there. So anyway, all right, thanks for joining, Frank. Bye-bye. No.
So we covered it. We're done. We're good.
Frank is joining because he's on to discuss financial options today, which is good because, full disclosure, I belong to both a bank and a credit union. I used to belong primarily only to credit unions, but then, operating a business. And even with some credit unions now, you can operate a sole proprietorship or LLC out of them. We'll get into them. But so I have still a bank I've stayed loyal to as well as a credit union. But anyway, the Christian show, so the joke goes, the proverbial first question, right, has to be, where were you born and raised? Where are you now? Significant places. You can see the Italian in me with the hands, right? Since we mentioned French, right. I'm German, Italian, and Polish, but the hands are definitely Italian. Anyway, I got way off. Where were you born and raised? Significant places you've been in between? Maybe even Italy? I don't know. Go on.
Visited once, but not terribly significant to me. So I grew up in Maryland. I was actually born in Virginia, but then grew up in Maryland. And then I now live in California. So I've been in California for the last 10 years. And if I may, can I just tell a quick funny story? So I don't feel a whole lot of connection to California. I mean, I live here and I love the weather, but I was with some coworkers who were all California natives, and we were at a Christian event, a Christian conference in Indianapolis. And every time somebody came up and said, "Where are you from?" I would say, "We're from California. I'm sorry." They would laugh.
Our condolences. Yes. Yeah.
And so all my colleagues, they said, Frank, you don't need to apologize for being from California. And I said, no, you don't understand. If I don't do it, they will. Watch. So the next guy comes up and I said, we're from California. And I didn't say anything. And he goes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I said, see, either they say it or we beat them to the punch. But, it's just one of those funny things. We're incredibly blessed. My wife's family's all out here. We've got 5 kids, so we got a lot of help with childcare. And so even though California is ridiculously expensive and crazy in a lot of ways, the Lord has blessed us here. I live in a city called Pomona, and then our office, the credit union office, is in Glendora, which I'd say the closest city that people would recognize is Pasadena, which is about 20 minutes away.
I had been through there. I full disclosure, used to work for Kmart HQ, which of course now gone, but we had a distribution center out in Ontario, California.
Oh yeah.
So
right
Yeah, been in and all around all those places. So, Rancho Cucamonga. Oh my God.
Joe Cucamonga.
Oh,
That's
I
right.
love it upside the mountain there. Most people will be saying, "What are he talking?" They're not going to Google Earth that. Oh my! And
That's
Rancho
right.
Cucamonga is
It is
so beautiful.
beautiful.
You drive
Mhm.
up, but you're driving among horses. They mostly ride horses up there, but of course
Mhm.
there are roads for the cars. Anyway, I've got us way off track again. And I also forgot I wanted to say I'm wearing my military shirt, which is more appropriate for veterans or Armed Forces Day than Memorial Day, because we are recording on Tuesday, March. Oh, no, not March. Oh, this always happens. I hit record and the mouth and the brain don't want to cooperate. Tuesday, May the 26th, the day after Memorial Day. So, as an
That's right.
excuse, also, I'm going to hold up my American
Oh.
Gold Star Mothers Inc. meme, and I'll put the meme in post so it's more legible,
Mm.
that makes the distinction. Armed Forces Day, the third Saturday of each May, honors the serving. Memorial Day, the last Monday of May, those who died while serving, although I think most people extend the courtesy to anyone who
Mhm.
died of wounds in battle, even if they happened
Yeah.
after because of the wounds. And then, of course, Veterans Day, the 11th day of each November, 11/11/11/11
Mhm.
a.m. officially the time. Anyway, but you're not here to talk about that. You're here to talk financial stuff.
That's right.
And I already, full disclosure, say bank and credit union. I won't say which one. It's not his, though. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Do you have branches in Michigan? I guess is a good question then.
Indirectly, yes. We are part of a shared branch network that most credit unions participate in. So there are about 5,000 participating credit union branches all over the country. And this is our way of banding together so that we can take on the big banks. And I would say that's very indicative of the credit union ethos, which is all about community and banding together. Credit unions are financial cooperatives. And so even among credit unions, different credit unions, you'd think of us maybe as competitors, but in a lot of ways, we like to band together, knowing that when
Yeah.
you've got 5,000 branches, now you can actually give, let's say, Bank of America or Wells Fargo a run for its money because
Yeah.
we've got locations in so many spots.
This is an important thing. So I'm glad I went there and thing to remember. And you said a co op. This is
That's right.
often a political show. I talk all the time about biblical community is far different than worldly communism. I've talked about the Bradford Colony and the Mayflower Commie Compact that failed. They almost all starved to death. So he then instituted private property, personal individual rights and freedoms, blah, blah, blah. The rest is history. That's what America was founded on, not communism. And so you mentioned co op in this case. It is voluntary. There's
That's
nothing
right.
wrong with community, or even the word commune if you join it willingly and you're not forced either into it or once you're into it like a cult to
Mhm.
forced in the iron fences and held at gunpoint against your will. But again, I've gone way off the
That's
beaten
right.
path.
Just to
But
be clear, there are no iron fences. There are no guns. Our credit union's very nice.
so I think we've already addressed one of the key distinctions why
Mhm.
a credit union, and another
Yeah.
obvious one is usually better rates, lower interest rates on credit cards or loans,
Yeah.
as well as better interest, lower ones. There are higher ones on interest for your savings and
That's
money
right.
markets and
Hmm.
CDs or uh, checking accounts. Even the one I'm with,
Yeah.
I'm getting interest on the checking as well as the
Hmm.
savings and the
Yeah.
CDs. That would have been better than the bank. So there's that.
Well,
Go
and
ahead.
if I may, I think it's worth taking a step back, talking about what we mean by co-ops, specifically, a financial cooperative. because everything that you're talking about, they're sort of the fruits of a more foundational, aspect of credit unions, which is that credit unions, as you know, are owned by their members. And so that's really the crucial difference, is that credit unions are owned by the people that they serve. And so if you think of a Venn diagram, it's a perfect circle, who owns it and who it serves. But then you think about banks, especially these big banks that are publicly listed. So, you might own 10 shares of some big bank stock, right? So you're technically a part owner of that bank. You don't necessarily have to be a customer there, though. And so then every quarter, these banks have to report to their shareholders and say, look how much money we made, look how much profit we made for you, the owners. And we kind of did it at the expense of our customers, right? So in some ways, I won't go, I mean, sometimes it's predatory, but at the very least, there's a sort of a split. There's a split loyalty.
Well, it certainly is when they buy up each other and close the other bank down. Yeah,
that's true. It can get a little ugly for sure. But when you understand that your for-profit bank is seeking to profit off of you, the customer, to benefit the owners, whether it's publicly traded on the stock exchanges or even if it's just privately owned. There's sort of, it's like, I understand that you're going to take care of me just enough to keep me as a customer, but you're not really interested in my welfare. You're more interested in the welfare of the owner. So then in a credit union, because we're owned by our members, everybody who joins, you could join today and you'd become a part owner of the credit union as well as being a member. So you're being served, but we're beholden to you. So then we act, we the staff are more like stewards at that point. And so that then, Joseph, back to your point, because we're not trying to skim off some profits to pay to our owners over here, there's more left to benefit the members. And so,
yes.
That typically means then that we can lend money at a lower rate and then we can pay a higher rate on our deposits. And because we just need enough margin between what we're lending at and what we're paying on deposits to pay the staff. That's basically it. We just have to pay our employees to keep the operation running.
The buildings, the lights on.
Well, yes, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
All that stuff still holds true. You're not a completely virtual operation. So,
That's
even
right,
with that,
exactly.
then you've got websites to maintain and all that. You do have a website. Yes, let's go ahead and give that out right now. Usually I'll wait to the end. Go ahead and give it out. Let me write it down.
Yes, check us out at americaschristiancu.com.
American, what was that again?
America's. Possessive. America's Christiancu.com. Because we belong to the American Christians. We are America's Christian Credit Union.
cu.com.
That's right.
Okay, I got that written down now, and obviously no apostrophe in Christians because the internet would flake out. Yeah.
That's right.
I wrote down 2 notes because back to I already forgot this note. That's why I have to write it down. I'm 63 in the brain is just the memory just isn't as good as it used to be. We were joking about California. People need to check out, and I will tack on to the end of the episode, my States of Confusion kind of tongue-in-cheek song, and it talks about California in it. So I'll tack that on to the end. So you'll need to listen back later to hear that one. And I wrote down, It's a Wonderful Life. Well, why? Obvious, right?
Yes.
The SNL, right? Today's credit unions are what the SNL in It's a Wonderful Life is. Yes?
Do I have to do the George Banks impression now? Is that
if you like, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't have your money. Your money's in his house.
Exactly. Bingo. You just keep enough on hand for usual expected daily Well, banks generally do that too, but go ahead.
And that's exactly, Joseph, that is perhaps the most important thing we're going to talk about today, unless you have something else up your sleeve.
Oh, and insurance. We'll get to the insurance coverage.
Yeah. Insurance, of course, is a big one, but all financial institutions, banks and credit unions, are lending out about 90% of your deposits. And so the old scene from It's a Wonderful Life, when there's that run on the bank and George is explaining why they don't have the cash. It's because we took your deposits to make a home loan to your neighbor so that they could buy a house, right? And so this is why...
Or you covered your credit card purchases.
That's right. Yep. All of those things. But this is why it's so important who you bank with, because if you really think about the broad array of things that a financial institution could choose to lend your money for, to essentially invest your money for, right? You know that there are places in your community that you wish weren't there, right? There are, and I don't know exactly the flavor of your listenership, but maybe you know that there is a medical clinic that is performing abortions. And you're like, I wish they weren't performing
Christian
abortions.
shows, so most of them are going to be pro-life. Most,
I would hope
certainly
so.
not all.
Yeah.
I certainly hope secular people listen to the show because there is a lot of good information here outside of the Christian biblical-based thing. Blah blah blah.
Right.
Disclaimer
and
closed.
this point holds for everybody, but I will give it a Christian spin here. So if you are dismayed to know that there is a medical clinic that's performing abortions right there in your own town or city, well, guess what? When the people who built that medical clinic were pulling together the funding for the construction of that building, they probably got a loan. So they probably went to a bank, at which point they were getting that bank's customers money, right, to as a loan to be able to do the construction. And so then, if you were able to trace those breadcrumbs and then realize, wait a minute, I'm a customer of that bank that made the loan to that group that built the medical facility where they're performing abortions.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That means then that your money indirectly helped fund that thing.
Yeah. That also holds true for gun confiscation firms who want to confiscate your guns. We're big on the whole constitutionalist, Constitution, our rights, protecting our rights. To make it more generic, you're in tune with upholding our rights and morals as a Judeo-Christian foundation nation. And you don't have to be a Christian or a Jew to understand that. Penn of Penn and Teller, I often tell the tale, it's no problem with Moses and the Ten Commandments on the SCOTUS building, because, of course, whether you get to these morals through God or just, hey, it's just being a good fellow human, right? So it holds for secularists, too, at times.
In our current polarized moment, you look at some of the things that these big banks are funding, and there's a lot of people cheering. And they're saying, I love it. That's so great. You fund that parade in June, or you make that donation to Planned Parenthood. I love it. Okay, great. Then you found your home. Your money is sitting exactly where you want it to be. But there are a lot of people who are like, oh, I hate going to the bank branch in June because they've got rainbow flags all over the place. I hate it. That's when I only use my mobile banking because I hate that they're pushing that on me. So with America's Christian Credit Union, you have an option for banking where you're getting full service banking, but you know that your money is being used for things like building new churches. We've done over 3,000 adoption loans. So we help families afford the legal costs of an adoption, which is like $30,000 to $50,000. So your money, and you're not donating, right? This is
that's
you're
aside and on top of what you may be donating to these causes you appreciate. Yes.
So you're having a financial impact on growing the kingdom of God, but you're doing it without making a donation. You're just choosing to make your money available to like-minded people so that then the staff at America's Christian Credit Union can invest your money on your behalf in the kinds of causes that you already care about and would want to support, the sort of things that you want to see more of in your town rather than the things that you want to see less of.
I've got a question, which is also in the form of a suggestion. If it isn't the right answer, it's like why there are places like Mammoth Nation that have started up, that various things. I'm full disclosure, I'm part of it. My Terror Strikes book is advertised there as a conservative Constitutionalist book. And it's, I hate it. I mean Republican in the sense of the republic, not the party.
So small r Republican.
Yes, exactly. Does your credit union belong to Mammoth Nation, or would you consider potentially reaching out as a partner there for financial services?
Yeah, we don't yet, but I would love to learn more.
Sounds good.
we are constantly looking for like-minded people. And Bank of America is 3,000 times bigger than we are. So there's a lot of people who haven't heard of us. There are a lot of times where we go to conferences and we say, we are a Christian financial institution. We have 150,000 members all across the country. We are helping build churches, Christian schools, helping families grow through adoption, doing all these, wonderful things. And people say, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard of you." And that's, part of why I'm here is we're trying to fix that. We're constantly looking for partners, sort of these fellow, people on the same journey, right? Walking the same path and saying, well, you're working on this really important thing and we're handling the financial side of things. And if only you and the people that you represent knew about us, there are probably a lot of people who, again, it really bothers them when they hear things about their bank and they say, I opened it 30 years ago. 30 years ago is a completely different world. Or I opened it because they have a branch right across from my office and it's really easy to pop over at lunchtime.
May not be there anymore because all the big banks have closed down a lot of branches and consolidated. So they may not be as convenient as they once were either.
The calculations are changing because people are realizing all these things that I complain about, all these things that I write my members of Congress about, my bank is actually funding with my money. Well, okay, the first step would be at least help starve the capital for those sorts of things and redirect it somewhere where it's supporting the kingdom work that might actually turn our nation around. And so that's a really exciting thing. And then the other thing, and let me show my t-shirt. It's a little bit too chilly to wear just the t-shirt, but debank yourself. We've talked a lot about this idea of debanking yourself because
before they do it to you. Yeah.
Before they do it to you, exactly. Because it's been on the rise. We're in a moment of calm, but I think it's more like the eye of the storm, honestly, because before the current administration, we were seeing a lot of Christian ministries get debanked. I mean, we had literally dozens of Christian ministries come to us and they said, we got a letter in the mail and a cashier's check with all of our deposits, and we were told you are no longer a customer of this bank. And the details are always very vague. It's just you are no longer a customer of the bank. And this is you being a constitutionalist. I think there's a lot to be said for free association. So if a bank says you're not our flavor, you're not really our jam, capitalist in me says, well, so be it. I mean, we have these rights to be able to associate with the people that we want to associate with.
Freedom to associate also means freedom to not associate.
Correct, exactly. And so if a bank says, gosh, like, hey, pastor, your recent sermon on XYZ social, topic went viral on the internet and people are starting to connect the dots and realize that you bank with us and that's not a good look for us. That introduces some reputational risk for us. So we're going to cut ties with you and go our separate ways. As someone who respects the Constitution, I'm like, you know what, that's honestly fine. But for the pastor who's like, well, I have a staff working in my church and payroll's coming up on Friday and we no longer have a checking account to be able to send their paychecks out. Also, we don't have a way to receive donations anymore because we don't have a bank account. That just introduces very serious operational challenges to these ministries. And that's where people knowing that places like America's Christian Credit Union exists is so important, because before they debank you, debank yourself. And you're most likely to get debanked when you're at your most vulnerable, right? So when you're already, let's say, again, you preached about something, or maybe your Christian school has drawn a line on something that the state is trying to push in K-12 schools, and now you've got media and you've got activists outside protesting, and you just lost your bank account. The worst time to be shopping for a bank is when you're also dealing with those sorts of challenges. And so I just encourage people, be proactive. And yes, I think probably for the next 2 years, we're not going to see too many debankings because most financial institutions are trying to be on their best behavior. But if things change in Washington and we go back to a different flavor of administration,
and they're controlled by left-wing boards. Yes. Again. Uh-oh, you froze. Hello. Uh-oh.
Ramp up. Maybe even a great time to go shopping for a bank. The best time.
Uh-oh, you're freezing. You froze again. Well, I don't know what to say or do here because, okay, Frank, you're cutting in and out now. I don't know what happened.
I think we're back.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what we lost. So let's move on. Two things to finish up your point. Left-wing controlled boards, once the left-wing administration's back in, yes, they'll start up with the games again, attacking people on the right or even just in the middle because they've gone so far left. So even if there's any question. But anyway, onward. Mammoth Nation, Align Us app. You may have heard of them. Those are two things, too, that are for more center or right of center people to come together, and I definitely encourage you to look into Mammoth Nation and the Align
Thank you.
Us app. I wrote down a note, circled it, but you're not covered. We're not protected by the FDIC. Go.
So we are federally insured to the same level that banks are. We just do it through a different mechanism. So they have the FDIC. We have what's called the NCUA, which is the National Credit Union Administration, and they cover deposits up to $250,000. And because we care so much about our members, we go a step further. We actually pay for private insurance for $100,000 to $200,000, depending on the kind of account you have. And so some of our members are enjoying up to $450,000 in insurance on their deposits. So there's a lot of peace of mind knowing that.
Yeah.
I
sure wish I could afford that much to have in your credit union, but on my disability budget, sadly, no.
Yep. Well, but and Joseph, I want to go back to something that you said earlier because it's sort of relevant. We serve ministries and we also serve businesses. And in fact, about our portfolio dollar-wise is about 50-50 between individuals and families and businesses and faith-based nonprofits. And so where that added level of insurance really kicks in is for some of these organizations where they have a good chunk of change sitting there in their operating account.
Matter. I've got a couple shows. I've got another one coming soon, or I recently dropped. I don't remember. Rising tide lifts most boats. Likewise, sinking boats can drag other boats down, would be the converse. You let those other people lose a couple $100,000. To say that doesn't, it's like Neville Chamberlain before World War II. Also, the libertine concept of, the oceans protect us. No, they don't. You heard these things called intercontinental missiles and bombers and all that. The oceans don't protect us anymore, and someone else's wealth being destroyed, yes, does affect us too. It hurts the overall economy.
Very much so.
If you're drilling holes in boats in the harbor, that harms you too.
Right. Well,
because you're cutting down tourism.
But, we're here in California, and already we've had several notable billionaires leave because of taxes. And so what was the response? The response was, hey, let's pass a billionaire tax. It's like, they're already leaving. Are they not going fast enough?
You struck the right chord, believe me. Yeah, I mean, even old traditional Democrats. That's why I coined Christitutionalist. Are you a Christian if you can't be a commie-crat anymore? This isn't the day and age of JFK. And we don't know what all he might have done in a second term had he lived to be able to do one with all the other lefties around him trying to drag him down because he was a Democrat, but a somewhat conservative Catholic Democrat. But, I mean, look what happened once LBJ came in, the civil rights thing aside. He signed the Republican bills, the civil rights bills that came after the 14th Amendment, which is relevant now with the birthright citizenship, which was based on what? Republican Civil Rights Act. Prior to that, it's not like LBJ had his own Civil Rights Act. He just told the Democrats in the Senate to stop filibustering it so that it could come for a vote. You don't have to vote for it. And in fact, indeed, most of the Democrats didn't. And like all the Civil Rights Acts before and the 14th Amendment created by Republican majority of votes. So, but again, that's a bit off the beaten path and off topic, but it's part of the value.
But what it does show though is the realignments that can happen politically and how quickly they can happen. I mean, I think we're seeing bizarre realignments, just in the last 10 years that nobody could have foreseen. And it's a reminder that this is why we as believers, I mean, yes, we should be politically engaged, but we certainly shouldn't put all of our hope in the government. No matter who the politician is, and this is where believers banding together with believers is so important. And like you said earlier, I love it that Christian practices and what, especially the sort of that first century Christianity that we read about in the book of Acts sounds a lot like communism, but because it's fully voluntary, right?
Out
like
of
people
context.
choose to come.
Right. Out of context.
Right.
The context
Yep.
is voluntarily.
It's voluntary. That's
yes.
right. And if you don't pull your own weight, you actually get kicked out. Remember when Paul says, if you won't work, you will not eat.
Bingo, which is different than also where we are to want to be our brothers and sisters' keeper and take care of widows and orphans. Right. That is voluntary. We are to want to do that as Christians. And the Bible also says the distinction between those who are unable, I'm on disability, those who are unable, those versus those who just say, I want to climb in the cart and you pull me, even though I'm capable of pulling the cart. And why Jesus said the poor will always be among you. That's a human nature laziness statement, not a monetary or economics or governance statement. Yes. And I forgot to say this. This is bonus because when I first saw you, Pod Match is where we met. The audience knows I use that service. I saw financial services and all that. I didn't notice the Christian part. So this is kind of fortuitous bonus in a way.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people will say, what is Christian banking? What actually makes you different? Is this just branding? Is it just virtue signaling? And I think one of the most important, examples that I can point to is the way that we work with Christian ministries. So churches, schools, other types of ministries out there. And, like with churches, we've been lending money to churches for construction projects. Sometimes you'll have a church plant that's been renting from another church and they're finally ready to go and buy their own property. And the thing about ministries is that they run very lean. They do not have a lot of buffer. And so most
charities in general too, yeah. Although
charities in general, yeah, that's right.
There's a difference. Christians, like I would not recommend, giving stuff to Goodwill or Salvation Army takes a lot off the top. Red Cross is a big example of how much money goes off the top of your donation and doesn't get versus a Samaritan's purse.
That's a great point. But let's say there's a church that is looking, maybe, they finally found a property for sale that they want to buy so they can have their own home for worship. And most commercial lenders are looking for a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio, or DSCR. So essentially what they say is for every dollar that you owe in loan payment, you need to be bringing in at least $1.25. And for a lot of these ministries, they're like, huh? No, it does. No, we're not going to have that because we get our tithes and offerings and we spend all of it. So we're going to be closer to 1-to-1 rather than 1 to 1.25. And so because our staff has been working with churches for decades, we all go to church, like we understand that world. We've actually had to educate our regulators, because in order for us to get that $250,000 in federal insurance, they want to look at how we're operating so that they know that we're not, giving them a huge risk to their insurance.
You're still regulated to qualify for the coverage. Yes. That's right. The other thing I didn't think to bring up. Yes. Because you have NCUA, you adhere to the regulations, but they are slightly looser than a bank has.
I think our compliance people would not like the word looser, but I'll certainly say different. And so to finish that example from a moment ago, because I think it gets to your point, Joseph. So we actually educated our regulators, because they work with all kinds of credit unions. They come in every month, every year to 18 months to look at everything and make sure things are going well. And we've had to say to them, look, when we make a loan to a church, we're going to flex a little bit on that DSCR. We're not going to hold to a hard and fast 1.25 or higher. If they're telling us that the income is only going to be like 1.1, $1.10 for every dollar that they owe in loan payment, we might still move forward as long as we see that they have steady or growing attendance at church, that not only do they have strong pastor, but they have strong governance, right? That there are elders who are keeping an eye on the pastor, that they have a succession plan, because everything's about the one pastor, which means if that pastor gets hit by a bus, that church now is going to be in a bad way. But when we look at all those factors as we determine whether or not to make the loan, we might flex on the debt service coverage ratio, because we've worked with so many churches that we know that this is not as risky as it might look to somebody who's not used to working with nonprofits. And in fact, our default rate on loans, so the church loans that end up going bad, is way below the national average for commercial lending. So an apartment building or a strip mall is way more likely to default on a loan than a church. We've been able to show the numbers to our regulators and say, I know we're going a little bit outside the typical lending box, but we're doing it for a good reason, and we can show you why. And our regulators have actually been won over, and they said, okay, we see that you know what you're doing. Obviously, continue to be careful, keep us posted. But if that's what it takes to be able to serve your membership, like you said earlier, in terms of the regulations being different, our regulators know that we exist to serve a specific community. Just like Navy Federal exists to serve people in the Navy and retirees of the Navy.
Point.
You've got, Boeing Credit Union that serves people associated with Boeing. So every credit union, and some are geographic where they just serve people in a certain county or a certain city.
I belong to one of those. Yep.
And so they understand that every community is going to look a little bit different, and every community is going to have slightly different needs. And so the credit union exists to meet those needs. And so if we say we can't fit this cookie cutter box, but here's how we continue to mitigate risk even as we reach out to meet our members' needs, they'll say, okay, great. As long as you're doing it thoughtfully, have at it.
Yeah. Well, the time has flown. So we're going to, and I broke one of my rules. I like to say the name over and over. Frank Clement of AmericasChristianCU.com is where you can find the website. I did it again. America's, not American, America's right. Christian Credit Union, AmericasChristianCU.com. Frank Clement, again, in Clement weather, if you want to insert a joke. But you set me up. I got to end with a final joke.
Okay.
You were talking about showing consistency. I don't get why you'd want a place with a past store. I would want one with one that's been there and is staying. They're a presentor. But a bum. Right? I don't want a pastor. I want a corantor or a presentor. You could feel free to lift that joke to tell the clients. If they come in
Thank you, Joseph.
Here's our pastor. Oh, what say? When's the new one starting?
That's
right. Well, he's a pastor. Who's the presentor?
Right.
Anyway, thank you.
Terrible.
Hey, king of the bad jokes, king of the dad jokes, the lame puns. I used to co-host on Savage Unfiltered, and I was known as Jokester Joe there. Yeah, king of the lame puns. So thank you, Frank Clement, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Take care. God bless. Love you all. Hold on. Don't tune out just yet. Now, you've often seen shows doing ads. I've had some mid-show ads that have run, or at the end. Often at the end, it would be an ad for my own book. So does that really count? But, podcast sponsorships, you've seen them. Bunch of podcast people hawking products they probably have nothing to do with. Well, that's not the case with me. Now, I've got a couple partnership, sponsorship irons in the fire. These aren't paid that I'm giving you here. I am just giving you recommendations of a couple irons I have in the fire. A free shout out to, for one, Duncan. I'm going to hold up my How to Write a Book and Get It Published because I don't have a physical copy of my latest book, Roller Coasters, The Lifetime, because It is out on Amazon eKindle exclusive for only $1.99 because it's a short story, so I can keep your price down, or audiobook $4.99, inexpensive. So there it is, Kindle ebook cover. In it, I mention America runs on Dunkin', the slogan. They're a place I actually go to. I love the chocolate cream filled donuts, and a bit of a critique. You need to start making more of them, or make sure all the places actually have them. Most of the Dunkins around me don't have them. I often have to settle for the vanilla cream filled, but that's okay too at times. So I recommend Dunkin' Donuts. I do. I really do. There's something look at this. If you're looking behind the scenes video, you can see I'm not starving. I've got some extra weight on me. Dunkin' Donuts calories might be part of the reasons why. Everything in moderation. Just don't pig out on donuts all the time. Morning, noon, and night. I don't know if Dunkin's going to like me saying that or not. They want to sell as many donuts as possible. And of course, they sell coffee. But hey, that's the point. You're going to get real sponsorship reads from me, not fake, phony frauds that don't even use a product. Oh, let me read the following. And the next one I'm going to mention is Galaxy AI, which actually is now Magica, Magica AI. And I use them. I've created a couple music videos of late. If you check on the video channels, they're not on all of them. YouTube and BitChute. My channels there have most my music videos, or most my Suno songs, not all. You could check out the one I just did for Memorial Day 2026 for America 250. I wrote Memorial Day America 250 that I released on Memorial Day, and you can see that music video on my video platforms, created by Magica AI, as well as another music video that I did for my Terrors, based on my Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You book. I wrote Awake, Not Paranoid song, and there is a music video for that at BitChute and YouTube. It may be at my other platforms. I don't remember offhand. I didn't look it up before hitting record. My apologies. You can reach out to the AI via tinyURL. You know I love to use tinyURL services to shorten links. tinyurl.com/Galaxy Magica AI. All one word, of course, run together. tinyurl.com/Galaxy Magica AI. That'll take you to them. And the last one I'm going to mention is Blipboards. You can rent a static billboard for your advertising needs, but those are expensive and they're static. Blipboards, for the same budget of one, you can advertise at 10 or more locations, whatever product and service you're trying to offer. So I recommend Blipboards. Again, they're not paying me to say this. I'm saying this as a customer. I haven't even reached out to them to be a sponsor on the show. Next, guess what I'll be doing next? Writing them a letter. Anyway, tinyurl.com/blipboards. BLIP boards. Blipboards. tinyurl.com/blipboards to check them out. Tell them I sent you. Take care. God bless. Love you.
Memorial Day, not a celebration, a somber remembrance. We we all say, for those who gave it all to save our freedom, they answered the call. For them we now must also stand tall. Memorial Day, not a celebration, a remembrance weight we carry in our hands. We speak their names down rows of white stone, and every flag feels heavy in the wind. For those who gave it all, we bow our heads. For freedom's breath, we remember them. Stand tall today, show the youth the way. For the ones who answer the call. Stand tall today, memory not gone away. We keep their light in the hall. No loud parade can tell the whole story of boots in dust and letters worn thin. A mother's prayer, a folded flag, a final promise still living in us. For those who gave it all, we bow our heads. For freedom's breath, we remember them. Stand tall today, show the youth the way. For the ones who answer the call. Stand tall today, memory not gone away. We keep their light in the hall. Let the silence speak, let the name stay near. Let the tears fall slow for the ones not here. And when we rise with care, carrying their courage everywhere. Stand tall today, show the youth the way. For the ones who answer the call. Stand tall today, memory not gone away. We keep their light in the hall. Memorial Day, not a celebration, a somber remembrance, we all say. For those who gave it all to save our freedom, they answered the call. For them we now must also stand tall.
Welcome to the states of confusion. U.S. of A., united we sit, where once we used to stand, are playing different tunes, no longer the same band. Woke up in Massachusetts, land of the free and the tax. Harvard elite sipping lattes, telling us how we should act. From Boston to Cambridge, it's all mass hysteria. Protests in the streets while they're counting their hysteria. Yelling about tolerance, but cancel you quick if you disagree. Welcome to the People's Republic of do as I say, not as we. We're living in the states of confusion. Coast to coast is the same. Red states, blue states, everybody playing the blame game. From sea to shining sea, it's one big comedy. States of confusion. Lord have mercy on me. Drive through the city-states, but the heartland's feeling the squeeze. Fly over country getting forgotten, while the coasts do as they please. Show me the money, show me the job, show me where the hope went. Cause right now Missouri's just one long state of misery lament. Then there's California, sorry I mean California dream, where the stars all glitter and the taxes make you scream. Silicon Valley billionaires preaching save the planet from their jets, while homeless tents line the sidewalks and the middle class just forgets. Legal weed in the morning, illegal everything by night. California, where the sun shines bright, but the future ain't right. Now back to my own backyard, the great Michigan. Once Motor City muscle, now rust and regret on the brain. Detroit went bankrupt, but the taxes still keep on rising. Politicians promise jobs while the factories keep on closing. Great Lakes to glisten, but the economy's in the tank. Michigan, yeah, we're trying real hard, but we just keep falling back. And don't get me started on Illinois, the state of Illinois. Chicago, corruption running deep like that deep dish void. Politicians grinning while the taxes keep on rising high. Windy City blowing smoke, making honest folks wanna cry. Springfield to the suburbs, everybody's getting fleeced. Illinois is hell, yeah. This state's a straight up beast. Now we hit Texas, Lone Star, state of Texas pride. Oil barons riding high while the grid fries nationwide. Austin weirdos dancing with cowboys in the heat. Border talking ballots can't keep the chaos off repeat. Big trucks, bigger hats, and politics that bite. Texas, yeehaw, freedom, but the power's out tonight. We're living in the states of confusion, from mass hysteria to California shore. State of misery in the middle, Michigan and in Illinois forevermore. Red, blue, purple, we're all confused as can be. States of confusion, but it's still the land of the free. Lord have mercy. States of confusion, yeah, that's now status of the people we.
Eyes open wide, not living in fear, just knowing the signs when danger draws near.
But there's a difference between fear and comprehension. Crime doesn't clock in, terrorism has no zip code. Anytime, any place, you better know which road. You are not an ostrich with your head buried in sand. You're a thinker with awareness and a reason you still stand. When the world erupts around you, don't let panic be your guide. Three options in the crisis moment, only one keeps you alive. Awake, not paranoid, situationally aware, not consumed by all the fear porn, but prepared to face what's there. Fight, flight, or maybe fade. Know the difference, make the call. A thinking mind won't be the sheep all trampled when the panic falls. Awake, not paranoid. Awake. Remember when the music stopped and panic filled the air? The stampede was the danger, not what triggered the scare. Fry and panda fire when you run without a thought. The threat that really kills you is the panic that you caught. Mama bear or ostrich, which one are you gonna be? Assess the situation, is that danger close to me? Is it in my orbit, is it coming from my space? Or do I fade to safety, live to fight another day? When the world erupts around you, don't let panic be your guide. Three options in the crisis moment, only one key fear, faith over despair. Keep your wits clear, love over hate, good over evil, freedom over tyranny. Rise above the sheep. They said burn out, don't fade away, but I say fade and live to see another day. Unless it's in your orbit, unless there's no escape, then you stand and fight. That's the choice that heroes make. Awake means you are watching, not wrapped in paranoia's chains. You carry situational awareness like an umbrella when it rains. Not selling fear, not peddling doom, just asking you to think before the panic swallows reason and you're swept across the brain. Awake, not paranoid, situationally aware, not consumed by all the fear porn, but prepared to face what's there. Fight, flight, or maybe fade. Know the difference, make the call. A thinking mind won't be the sheep all trampled when the panic falls. Awake, not paranoid. Awake, think, don't panic, assess, don't assume. Fade when you can fight, when you must awake. Not paranoid, just awake.
Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help. Thank you for having tuned into another Constitutionalist Podcast show. I really appreciate that you stopped by. Again, please like, share, subscribe. We need you to help spread the Constitutionalist movement. Thank you again. Take care. God bless. Love you all.